Hello everybody, this is part 2 of how to create a login page tutorial for a website. And initially what we did in the first tutorial was create the registration form, and we linked the registration form. If all the fields, all the conditions of the fields were met, we linked the registration form to a different page. I just wanted to make the passwords match because they weren't matching before. So we linked it if everything works to the registration process page. And now we want to write the registration process code. So for this tutorial, we're going to use XAMPP to access the PHP MyAdmin database, and create a database and create a table where the user's information will be stored. And in the registration process, all the information that the user entered will be processed in this stage and sent to the database. So we need to have like the database ready to receive that information. So to access the PHP MyAdmin database, we go to admin here. If you had already downloaded the PHP MyAdmin, I think the username is root and the password should be blank, like if it's the first time you're using it. But if you had it before and you may have entered a new password, just enter that password. But if you had it already and changed your password or added a password, then you can add that information. You can add the password now. And we're going to create a new database. We're going to call it login database right here, and create. We're going to use 5 columns for first name, last name, email, password. We're not going to create one for confirm password, but we need one for ID, because we need to be able to identify each user with an ID, to uniquely give them an identification, so we can store each user's records uniquely. So we're going to have five fields, and the name of the table, we'll call it login table. And here we'll just add some some attributes. We'll begin by ID. Here we'll have it as integer, and we'll just have like 10 characters for the integer. For the collision, we're going to use UTF-8. UTF-8 general CI. This is basically for sorting, and we're going to make the ID the primary key. The primary key basically the primary key basically means that the values here will be the identification the uh, the unique identifier for each record. Okay, so the next field, we'll do it for the first name, and we'll have it as text. And last name, we'll have this as text as well. We can have that here for the length. Email, we can have it as variable character, and have length 30, and password, we'll have it as variable character and 30. So for the fields, for the password, this is just a basic login page, but I'll create another tutorial on how to secure the database with your passwords. But for this, I'll just use a basic, and for basically for understanding, I'm just going to use a normal password, just a standard password um, security feature. So we'll save these fields in the login table. So here ID is the primary key, and there'll be auto increment, so every record will have a different ID. So every um, user will be differentiated. So we've created the database, which is login DB and login table. Next, we're going to write the code so we can actually store that information from the registration page. So we really don't need this H1. I only did it for purposes of seeing whether the registration form actually works and successfully linked us to the registration process file. But this page will actually won't be loaded in the won't show anything in the browser, but it will be processed in the browser. So we're going to create variables. Localhost, the the local host is for the server, and by default it's usually just called localhost. The username is by default root if you don't change it. I changed my password, so my password is actually password. So that's, but if if by default you did not change the password for this for phpMyAdmin, when you install it, it should be blank. But I would advise to change it so you can be able to access it. So the next is database. This is the name of the database. We already gave it a name. We call it login DB for database. So login DB. And next we're going to try to connect we're going to try to connect to the database. Actually, it should be DB. So for us, the host is localhost, and username, password, database, and I don't think, I don't think we need these. We don't need those right now. So this statement basically says that if the database is connected successfully, a certain action should occur, and in this case, in this case, we actually want to save, the cookies that we actually saved in the browser. So we want to save these cookies and put them in the database. So so we need to see if the cookies have actually been set. Password, first name, last name, so email, password, first name, last name. I missed a bracket here, so make sure you close this statement. So if the cookies are set and ours have been set, they've been saved in the browser, we're going to collect this information and put them in a variable and then send them to a database, send them to a table in our database. So so for the email, we're going to assign it the email cookie, the email value of the cookie. So that will be stored in this variable. Also, we're going to have to add some security features. For example, we need to trim in case the user left some spaces in the form. So we want to trim, make sure all the information is stored without any spaces. And we're going to also use the strip tag function. Strip tags, basically any HTML tags or any programming tags included here will be removed. The next thing we're going to have to do is use the MySQLi real escape string function. So this function basically it adds security for all the information inserted in a form that is going to be saved in a database. So this is more for security reasons. So we're going to add that my SQLite real escape string, and we also need to add the DB database. So this cookie has been trimmed and the tags have been stripped, and we're going to add a security file for this. This is a security function that that stores the details in the email securely in the database. This database that has been connected into. So we're going to do this for all the other cookies that have been collected in the browser. First name, last name, password. First name, last name, and password. Just make sure everything matches. And if everything matches, we're going to use this information to send it into the database, these variables. Whatever is in these variables, we're going to write them in a SQL code. So we'll create a variable called SQL in which we'll write an SQL statement, insert into the login database. Login database here. First name, last name, email, and password. So what we're inserting is the values, and in our case the values here are first name, right here. All these variables, they have to coincide with the same sequence of these fields in the table. These fields here, the ID is automatic. It's just going to, for every data that's inserted, it will auto increment. So the first one will be 1, the next one will be 2, and so forth. So first name and last name, email, and password. Okay, there seems to be, okay. Okay, we need to close this quotation mark that began here. That's why. But anyway, we corrected that. So if this has been inserted, this is the code to insert the these this information. Collect it has collected it from the the browser and saved it, and this is the statement to save it in the database. So we'll have an if statement, if results is equals to MySQLi query, and we'll link the database, and the syntax SQL code. So so if this actually works, this code, this condition here says if this information was successfully inserted into the database with no problems, then we should link or redirect um, we'll create a page registration complete.php. So it will basically redirect to that page, and we'll create a header location redirect. So if this works, we'll redirect, we'll create a registration complete page that basically tells the user that the registration has been completed. And we're also going to create we're also going to add an error message in case this does not work, and we're just going to create it first. Header Alright, this information, we can actually create responses on this page. So either of these responses should show up rather than putting it in a different page. We can just use this page since it already exists, and there's no data that we're collecting from the user here. We can just display the errors here. So we can add this. No, in fact that is going to be a problem. because hold on, you know what? Let's try and do that instead. Let's create a response here. You have successfully been registered. Else print there is a problem saving your information. Please try again. So we're making this web page um, produce responses. Before initially I wanted to use a different page, but that's I think it's a little bit redundant. We're just going to try and use the same page. So we'll delete this registration complete page. Okay, so here we'll also put an else statement. And just have the same message. Oh, my computer just froze again. We're going to have to give it a few seconds. Okay, it's come back. So yeah, print. There was a problem saving your information. Please try again. Okay, so I think it should work here. But if it doesn't work, we're gonna just try using a different page to process this. So now we're going to try and save this information, but I'm going to delete everything, all the cookies, so I can just start over again. So right now our database is empty. The login table, our table is empty. So we're going to add information just using this form. It should save John Doe 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so it says there was a problem saving your information. So we have a problem. Let's try and see what the problem was. Localhost root password login database. There was a problem saving information. So we want to know exactly where the problem occurred. So we're going to add identifiers somewhere here where we can know exactly at what point the error occurred. So I'm just going to write here error 1 and error 2, error 3. Okay, so we're going to save the passwords again. Error 2. So there was a problem. There was a problem with the cookies. Oh, I think I know what the problem was. This should have been password 1, and this should have been password. No, that one is fine. This is actually my password for my PHP admin, but the password for the user is password 1. So password 1 here. I think that was the problem. But we'll try again and see if there is another problem. Okay. It says error 2. Okay, so I see what the problem is. I did not set this as cookie, so that should be cookie instead of post. So cookie. Also, this should be table. Insert into login table. Login table. Not the login database. So let's see if that actually works now. We have successfully been registered. So in our database, it should show the new users that have been registered. So we're just going to check. In our login table. So as you can see here, the ID was already increased by 1 since this was the first user, and then this is the information. We were going to add another user just to see if it's working the way it's supposed to, and we'll also add HTML tags. And we'll link this to the login page. We have not created that, but we'll create it. So login page and login here. Okay, so we'll create the login page, but first um, let's add another user. um, I would like to create a backlink so someone else can register if they want to register again or something. But we'll create a backlink so it's easy to navigate. Register.php. Okay, so this will take us to the login page, which we have not created. The login link and go back should take us to the registration page. As you can see here, all the information has been deleted, but that's because I have set my browser settings to not remember all the information in fields, but the cookies here still have that information. We're going to delete those once the user is able to log out or even come back here again. So we're going to add another user, Jane Doe, Jane Doe at gmail.com. Okay, so it says that Jane Doe has been added, so it should reflect. Okay, for some reason, oh, okay, so when I was refreshing the previous pages, um, when I was refreshing this page, all that time I was actually editing this page, it was actually saving, it was redoing the whole process. So that's why it saved all this. I'm pretty sure if I refresh it, like if I refresh here, there's just going to be one Jane Doe, but since I refreshed here many times as I was editing this page and this information here, the form was resubmitting. So if I refresh this again, I'm pretty sure the database will have another Jane Doe. That's why I have all these here. Here, Jane Doe. So anyway, just never mind about that. We're going to create the login page. Um, in the next tutorial, we're going to create the login page and we're going to do the login process. So we've completed these two steps, and in the next tutorial we'll complete these two. So thanks for watching.